afternoon, everyone. It's CJ. Hopefully, everyone's having a fantastic day so far. It is Wednesday, August the 9th, and want to thank you for tuning in to this live stream interview. Very excited for today's returning guest. Many of you are probably very familiar with a few of the interviews that she's done with us. Very excited to welcome back Sara Makin. Sara is the creator owner of MakinWellness.com. I'll put all the links in the description box so that way you can follow her and her work. Sara, welcome back. It's been a minute, and it's great to reconnect and chat with you, Sara.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here and excited to be back.
Absolutely. Well, Sara, part of the reason why I had you on was because it seems here recently that anxiety, stress, depression, so many things are just kind of off the charts right now, Sara. And from your professional, experience and expertise, what are you seeing out there currently with your practice and everything that you guys are doing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I would say that anxiety is definitely on the rise. And you're talking about stress and more people being stressed out. It's one of the most common concerns that our team treats at Make 'em Honest. So anxiety, I would say, is on the rise, and depression as well. However, we do notice in the winter time that depression seems to be higher at that point in time.
Yeah, it seems here lately I see a lot more posts on social media, what have you, of people who are either having trouble sleeping, and I applaud their efforts because I think that's one of the first things you can do is to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm struggling here. There's some things that aren't normal that I need some help with, and seek the professional medical advice that is needed. Sara, if you could, like, in terms of what you do in your practice, your office, what are some of the beginning things that people should start to realize or come to assess in regards to kind of a self-evaluation where they say, hey, I need some help? Can you go over just some advice and general things that could benefit our audience, please?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if someone feels like they could benefit from working on their mental health, the first thing that we always advise is to reach out and to first and foremost get the support of a online therapist. So our team, Making Wellness, can absolutely help. We're licensed and able to support clients in Maryland and Pennsylvania remotely at this time. Because whenever you do get matched up with a therapist, they will work with you to create a treatment plan, and treatment plans are highly individualized. So something that would work to treat anxiety for me may not work effectively for another client. And so it's really important to get the support of someone that can help you to put together a treatment plan. And then the second thing that I always recommend in the beginning of counseling or in the beginning of working and improving your mental health is really taking record of what the biggest concerns are and what the biggest need to address first is. So in that way, we can work to address the biggest thing that is causing you the most concern as a priority. So those two things really help to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and I think that's important because just in regards to the amount of I guess we could call it interference or things are taking place. It unfortunately, some other traditional lines of practice are to have a tendency maybe to streamline things and not necessarily customize their approach, to the individual. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, like what potential questions could be in regards to customizing it for the individual, what might that look like versus what some of the traditional routes? Because I hear people comments, well, yeah, I went and I was prescribed a medication and it's not working and so forth. And I said, well, how much time did they spend, getting to some type of root cause analysis of what's creating it? Are you getting proper sleep? What's your diet, your exercise like? So what does that customization kind of look like? I know we're limited on time today, but can you walk us through some of what that potentially could look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is really addressing not just the mental health status of the client, but also finding out more about their lifestyle, what they're eating, what their stress levels are, what the home situation is. And so sharing more information, just not just sharing information about your mental health, but sharing other things that do impact your mental health as well, and making sure that you communicate specifically what the biggest priorities are for you to address, and asking and letting them know that you'd prefer that the treatment to be individualized, and sharing the specific things that you'd want the therapist to be aware of. Because I feel like sometimes clients feel or think that their therapist is a mind reader. Um, and unfortunately, that is not the case. So it's good to, you
You're
might,
not Sarah. Sarah, I thought you were. I'm like totally.
know, I am very concerned that I'm not. My life would be 20 times easier, CJ, if I could be kind. I'm still working on it, but just kidding. But yeah, just very clearly communicating, because they're not going to know unless you tell them.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think some of that may be in terms of what that communication looks like, is that whether you want to call it a stigma, whatever you want to call it in regards to mental health, we know that the acknowledgement of that sometimes is not the easiest thing to do. It's not the easiest thing to come to terms with, and there's individuals who really could be struggling with some pretty significant things, post traumatic stress disorder, numerous factors, and for that reason, you really just can't put it in this magic 1, 2, 3, and boom, you're healed and all that. And I think getting past the mental aspect of it is the most important in terms of let's just call it stigma for now, in terms of that acknowledging that, hey, I need help, versus turning to potentially other substances of either too much consumption of alcohol, or just basically trying to put a little cover on what's truly going on. And I think breaking through that is just so important. So, and I even being self-aware of that, like I share with you a video that I did in August, trying to help some individuals, because even myself, with going through the amount of things that we're in transition right now with several different things, is that it's not that difficult to get caught in a little slump, but being able to recognize, is it a slump, or is this a longer type potentially health impacting thing? So what advice do you give in terms of like getting through the stigma, or I guess humbling yourself to, maybe that's not the proper word, but in terms of just acknowledgement, what are some considerations there?
Yeah. So the biggest thing to consider when it comes to stigma is, ultimately, if you break your bone, if you break your wrist, you're not just going to sit at home and not do anything about it. You're going to go to a doctor, because you know that they'll be able to help to get that broken bone fixed. And it's the exact same thing with seeing a therapist. And another big difference nowadays, CJ, is that a lot of people are knowledge workers now. And so having sound mental health and having strong cognitive abilities and strong functioning is vital for the success of a lot of people, especially, I mean, obviously it depends where you live and everything, but overall, that is a big societal change. Another thing now is that people have never been more stressed out. Um, we've had a very interesting 2020 and 2021, political changes, um, technological changes, career changes, a lot of people changing and leaving their jobs. There's been a lot of things that have led to just society in general being a lot more stressed out than usual. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with reaching out and getting the help of a therapist. If you're a Pennsylvania or Maryland resident looking for support, we're more than happy to support you at Make Wellness. And if not, you can always call the number on the back of your insurance card, or even just reach out anyways, because we are connected with a lot of other companies outside of Maryland and Pennsylvania, and would love to recommend or help you to get into treatment.
Right.
Ultimately, there's nothing wrong with it. And the thing is the pain of the, the pain of staying the same many times is so much worse than the pain of making a change. Because a lot of things that come to like mental health and, like you mentioned, trauma, these things are going to linger on more than likely until it's addressed in treatment. Of course, there's rarities. Sometimes people have trauma and then just like they wake up one day and they're like, you know what? I'm going to look at this in a totally different way, and I'm just choosing to let go and just be fine and accept whatever's happened. But that is such a rarity, in that is not the normative thing that happens. So
Yeah.
it's good to seek out help, and a lot of people do. The other thing
Mm-hmm.
too, I was doing research one day, CJ. It was, I believe it was 2017 or 2018, about 55% of Pennsylvania residents were in some type of counseling.
Oh.
It's more than half of the
Okay.
population.
Mm.
So we have that many people at that point in time being in counseling. First, I'm pretty certain that the rate is even higher now.
Right.
So
Right. Well, one thing
yeah,
that I'm alarmed with and very cognizant of, especially with having boys that are now adults, is the fact that you see that anxiety and stress is off the charts right now with the youth, with kids and kids suffering from depression. So, as far as from a care provider role, can you give some tips and advice as far as what things should care providers be looking out for in terms of either maybe it's they're caring for a disabled loved one or caring for a child and seeing some things. What are some signs that they should be mindful of when it may be time to get some professional help?
that's a really great question, CJ. So the biggest things that I would say is number one, just communicating that you're there for them and that you're always happy to talk with them, and just having them, communicating with them that you are there for them and that they can reach out to you if at any point they're going through something or need some additional support, is really important, because sometimes people don't necessarily feel like they could reach out to their caregivers or their parents or guardians or whomever to share what's really going on, because they might not feel like the parent um, like can support them emotionally. And so just flat out communicating it is very important, first off. And then the second thing is regarding symptoms and what to look out for if someone is struggling with their mental health. One of the biggest things is abrupt changes in behavior. So like, let's say someone is used to like exercising 5 days a week and then they just suddenly stop exercising, or if they suddenly gain a lot of weight or suddenly lose a lot of weight. Um, Another major symptom is anhedonia, which means like certain things that used to make someone happy or make someone feel good are no longer making the person feel good. So, for example, someone loves, like, I love playing tennis, but I just randomly stopped playing tennis for 6 months. That could be considered um, a warning. Another thing too is if you have a child or someone who's in school, if there's a big change with their grades, like a decrease or sudden decline with their academic performance, or if you're suddenly getting notified more frequently by the school about any type of behavioral or academic changes. And another warning sign is increasing substance use. Like you mentioned, CJ, that is a form of self-medication. And so if someone is drinking a lot more, if they're using substances and increasing the frequency of how often they're using the substance, all of those things can be considered a warning sign that someone's not doing well.
Yeah, yeah. I think in part, and I'm glad my boys. I don't think they do a whole lot of social media, but it seems like to me, and I'm not going to blame all social media for it, but I think it does definitely play an active role in terms of some of that anxiety. Whenever I was growing up more, we had to do some things that we didn't have, that we had that in person type of evaluation, maybe of competitiveness, but now we have this entire social media thing where sometimes the lives that people live on social media aren't necessarily their true lives. People just show you mostly the good sides, right? Of the happy times and things that are going on. So I know that that's kind of a sidebar in terms of that note. That's just in terms of my personal opinion of some of the things that I see, and I recommend to some people sometimes, turn it off, maybe disconnect, do a technology detox program and get away from social media for a little bit and see if it makes you feel better. And I want full disclosure, I am not a professional, so don't deem that as medical advice. This is my personal opinion. But I know at Making Wellness, you guys take a multifaceted approach as to helping individuals. And I give you a lot of credit for what you do. I follow your work. I listen to some of your podcasts that you had on with the Making Wellness podcast. I'm not sure why I'm having trouble saying that today. But walk us through in terms of the multifaceted approach you take with your clinics and with your online platform and how you help people, Sara.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to share about that. So getting scheduled in is a very simple process. You can reach out via text message, email, you can schedule online, or you can call our team. And our team will ask you a set of questions to get to know you a little bit better and to provide you with an appropriate referral with one of our specialized online therapists that accepts your insurance. And then we'll get you scheduled in on a recurring basis to see your provider. And you're able to see your therapist virtually through you could use your cell phone, laptop, tablet, as long as you have a video access and a mic. You're able to use whatever device that you'd like to see your therapist. And we're able to get most clients scheduled in within 48 hours, as long as you're able to send back the consents and a couple of other things. So we have an amazing team. We have about 30 specialized providers that are all here and devoted to help you to heal and become happy again. And we have the absolute best therapists you can possibly find. We are so picky with who we bring on, and I think it's about like only 3% of providers do even end up getting an opportunity to have their career here. And it's because we are so picky about who we bring on, and we really bring on the best of the best. So you have a therapist and you feel like you're not making enough progress, or you're curious about therapy, now is definitely the time to reach out, because we'd love to support you.
Yeah, that's terrific. Let me get back to the screen real quick. Yeah, the most interesting thing is that, again, is getting the individual. And I always try to, as much as I have my opinions about helping people and people see people seeking advice online. And I always refer to the professionally trained people. I think that's just so important that if we are trying to help someone, right, that even when I have individual people that reach out to me in regards to certain aspects of it, and I'm saying, well, you can take my advice, but at the same time, understand this, that I don't have the training, I don't have the background. That's why it's important for you to make that call, to make that initial contact to help people. So I appreciate the work that you do, Sara. And then also, I know you have some social platforms in regards to Making Wellness. So if you could also share that with our listeners, please, of how else they can connect and follow your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure to go to makingwellness.com and you can enroll in our free newsletter. We send out free mental health and counseling resources. Regarding social media, you can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. I don't remember if I already mentioned Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook. I might be going through the list again.
That's okay. That's okay.
We're just at Wellness. MAKIN Wellness, and you'll be able to find us across all major social media platforms that way.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Well, Sara, thank you for your time today. I know you're a very busy person. And again, just want to also thank our listeners for the opportunity to present this and share this with loved ones. Share this, because right now, with the amount of, whether it's economic pressures that are happening, social pressures that are taking place, there's no doubt that it's an opportune time to find ways to help others. And this is one thing that you truly can do. And again, that's makingwellness.com. So Sara, thank you once again. And it was great reconnecting with you.
Absolutely. It's always such a pleasure.